You did not encounter this message randomly. This moment was arranged with intention. Nothing about this is accidental, delayed, or misplaced. You were led here deliberately at the exact point your spirit could receive it. This is divine timing unfolding right in front of you. You were summoned here because your life has been a proving ground. You endured a trial that most people would never survive, a test so quiet and personal that the world never noticed it happening. Yet heaven did, God did. And this message stands as your confirmation. What you endured was not ordinary hardship. It was a sacred examination of your soul. You were tested in silence, where there were no witnesses to applaud your endurance. You were measured when there were no shortcuts available, no favors to call in, no escape routes to take. And still you remained standing. You didn't just endure the test, you passed it. Not by manipulation, not by pretending, not by betraying your values, not by taking the easy way out. You passed because you stayed true when compromise would have brought relief. You stayed honest when dishonesty would have brought speed. You stayed faithful when walking away would have hurt less. There are seasons in life when everything becomes an examination. Not one written on paper, but one written into your existence. A season where every loss feels deliberate, every delay feels intentional, every closed door feels personal. You were tested through pain that lingered longer than expected, through losses that left empty spaces in your life, through betrayal that cut deeper because it came from those you trusted, through loneliness that made you question whether anyone truly saw you, through financial pressure that forced you to choose integrity over desperation, through dreams that were postponed again and again. And yet, you are still here, breathing, standing, believing, hoping. That is not a coincidence. That is divine design. You were never being punished. You were being examined. And the most powerful truth of all is this: you passed without cheating. You passed while choosing patience instead of panic. You passed while choosing faith instead of fear. You passed while choosing a character instead of convenience. This journey wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to reveal you. This is not just your story of survival. This is your story of elevation. This is the moment you realize you were not chosen for comfort, but for refinement. Not for ease, but for excellence. What you walked through was intentional. God trusted you with a level of testing that only strong vessels receive. And now the truth begins to unfold. Before the journey continues, pause and recognize what this moment represents. Share this message with those who need confirmation. Stay connected, because this word is meant for those who are ready to rise out of rejection, out of pain, and into purpose. If this message resonates in your spirit, place 77 in the comments. Not as a ritual, but as a declaration. It is a signal of alignment, awareness, and readiness for what is next. Only those who are truly chosen remain until the end. And those who do will walk away with clarity, strength, and the breakthrough they've been waiting for. Each time you return to this message, it will meet you at a deeper level. Truth reveals itself in layers, and with every listen, a stronger version of you emerges. Section number 1. The test you never saw. Coming life doesn't announce its hardest exams. There is no warning bell, no preparation manual, no moment where you're told to brace yourself. One day, everything feels manageable, predictable, familiar. And then, without explanation, everything shifts. People you love drift away without closure. Plans you invested in collapse unexpectedly. Financial pressure mounts. Prayers seem to echo in silence. Suddenly, you find yourself in the middle of a battle you never volunteered for. What made this test even heavier was that no one else could see it. The war you were fighting was invisible to the outside world. You smiled while breaking inside. You showed up while barely holding yourself together. You carried responsibilities while grieving silently. Others saw strength, but they didn't see the nights you cried alone. They didn't feel the weight pressing on your chest. They didn't hear the thoughts that tried to convince you to quit. And yes, there were moments you questioned everything. Moments you asked God why you were chosen for this. Moments you felt abandoned, overlooked, forgotten. But something within you refused to surrender. A quiet, persistent voice whispered through the chaos. Hold on, not yet. This is not your end. That voice was not random. It was God reminding you that this storm was not sent to destroy you. It was sent to examine you. This exam wasn't about intelligence or talent. It wasn't about skill or status. It was about what you carried when everything else was stripped away. Your faith when answers were delayed. Your integrity when no one was watching. Your endurance when relief didn't come quickly. The true test happened in solitude, in silence, in unseen moments where your choices mattered most. You didn't anticipate this season, but it arrived anyway. And although it shook you deeply, it did not break you, because you possessed something rare: quiet faith, unshakable grit, and a fire that refused to die. Even when the pressure nearly crushed you, you didn't collapse. Even when compromise seemed easier, you didn't take it. Even when no one would have known, you stayed true. That is how you passed. What you are only now beginning to understand is this: every tear was counted. Every sleepless night was witnessed. Nothing you endured was overlooked. Every sacrifice you made was documented in heaven. Nothing you gave up was ignored. Nothing you lost was wasted. What felt like breaking points were actually building blocks. You were never being dismantled. You were being constructed with precision. You were not under punishment. You were under preparation. This season marked the opening chapter of your transformation, the beginning of who you are becoming, not the end of who you were. And the most difficult portion of the exam? You passed it. You showed up when disappearing would have been easier. You stayed present when quitting would have brought relief. You remained standing even while the ground beneath you felt unstable. You protected the softness of your heart when life did everything it could to harden it. That alone revealed your true identity, not the labels people placed on you, not the accusations from your past, not the opinions shaped by misunderstanding, but the truth God already knew. You are prepared for more. The test was never designed to destroy you. It was designed to uncover you, to expose the strength, faith, and endurance already placed within you. Section number 2, silence within the storm. There is a silence that goes beyond sound, a silence that doesn't just fill empty spaces. It settles deep within the soul. It's the silence that follows desperate prayers, the silence that comes after you've poured out everything to God and waited for a response, only to hear nothing, no answer, no direction, no visible movement. You searched for a sign, you pleaded for relief, you asked for a single word, just one indication that God still saw you, that He had not forgotten your name. But the heavens remained quiet, doors stayed shut, time seemed to slow, days blended into one another without progress. And that silence felt heavy. It felt like rejection. It felt like abandonment. It tempted you to believe your prayers had been ignored and your faith misplaced. But here's the truth most people never understand: that silence was not evidence of God's absence. It was evidence of His focus. Just as a teacher does not speak during an examination, God remained silent, not because He left, but because He was watching, closely, intentionally. He was observing how you would respond when His voice was not audible. Would you still believe when you couldn't feel Him? Would you still obey without clarity? Would you still trust when nothing made sense? And you did. You didn't understand, yet you continued. You didn't feel His presence, yet you prayed. You didn't see a path, yet you walked forward. That kind of faith is rare. Faith that advances without reassurance. Faith that moves through darkness. Faith that doesn't rely on emotion, but on conviction. It cannot be imitated. It is born in silence, refined in stillness, and strengthened in solitude. In that quiet storm, you encountered yourself. You uncovered resilience you didn't know existed. You learned how to stand without leaning on anyone. You learned how to breathe through anxiety, rise above fear, and move forward without a map. And in the deepest part of that storm, you came to understand something profound. Even in silence, God was working. He was stretching your endurance, refining your character, removing your reliance on people, outcomes, and circumstances, until your faith was anchored not in feelings, but in truth. You realize silence does not mean rejection. It means the test is in progress. It means heaven is watching your response. It means you reach the level where your strength is no longer questioned, it is being proven. And still you kept walking, not because it was easy, not because answers were clear, but because something deep within you whispered, trust anyway. That quiet strength, that steady belief, was part of the examination, and you passed. Not because you were loud, but because you endured the quiet. Not because you knew everything, but because you chose faith when answers were absent. In that storm, wrapped in divine silence, you didn't merely survive, you evolved. Section number 3, no shortcuts, no compromise. When life pushes people to their limits, many look for escape routes. Some take shortcuts to avoid discomfort. Some bend truth to escape consequences. Some change who they are just to be accepted. Some manipulate, deceive, and step on others, all in the name of success. In a world where results often matter more than integrity, winning becomes more important than how you win. But this is where your story separates itself. Because even when pressure invites compromise, you refuse. You did not cheat your way forward. You did not abandon your values for speed. You did not sacrifice your integrity for survival. And that is why this exam mattered. God was not only testing your endurance, He was testing your character, and you passed without cheating. When pressure intensifies, compromise often starts to look reasonable. Integrity begins to feel negotiable. Truth can become distorted when survival, success, and self-proof feel urgent. The weight to succeed, the fear of falling behind, the need to prove your worth. These forces have pushed even good people to abandon their values just to make it through another day. But you chose differently. You were presented with alternatives that promised speed and relief. You had opportunities to take shortcuts. You could have played the same games others played. You could have hardened your heart, grown bitter, and closed yourself off from the world. You could have responded with retaliation. You could have mirrored the abandonment, betrayal, dishonesty, and manipulation that were done to you. You could have built a version of success that looked impressive on the surface, but was hollow underneath. But you didn't. You remained grounded. You protected your principles. You chose truth even when it delayed progress. Even when it cost you opportunities, strained relationships, restless nights, and seasons of waiting, you stayed aligned with who you truly are. That is not weakness, that is authority. It takes extraordinary strength to remain gentle in a harsh world. It takes courage to choose character over convenience, and it takes a chosen spirit to walk the higher road when the lower one promises faster results. Others may never know what you resisted. They didn't see the offers you declined, the doors you refused to open, the temptations you overcame when no one else was watching. But heaven saw, God saw. And this portion of your exam was not simply about surviving hardship. It was about passing through difficulty without forfeiting your soul. Because anyone can appear successful. Anyone can chase outcomes and wear masks. But very few can endure fire and emerge with their integrity untouched. You refuse the easy exit. You refuse to trade truth for temporary comfort. You refuse to become someone else just to gain approval or escape pain. You chose the harder path, the solitary path, the righteous path. Even when no applause followed, even when obedience felt invisible. Integrity does not announce itself loudly. It does not sparkle like status or wealth, but its value cannot be purchased, copied, or counterfeited. When you choose integrity, you choose to carry your purpose with honor. You choose to build something enduring, something rooted deeply enough to last beyond the moment. You chose what is eternal over what is temporary. You have proven that you are not only capable of success, you are capable of worthy success. The kind that preserves your conscience, the kind that protects your peace, the kind that brings joy not only to you, but to heaven. Because here is the truth many never reach: survival is common, but survival with your soul intact is rare. Not everyone can look inward and say, I didn't sell out. I didn't lose myself trying to win. That is what sets you apart. That is what marks you as chosen. You didn't just complete the exam, you passed it with honor. You walked through fire and emerged untainted. You remained authentic when imitation would have been easier. That quiet strength, That steady nobility cannot be taught. It was planted within you by God Himself. And because you refused to compromise, because you stayed anchored in truth, your foundation now stands unmovable. What you are building cannot be dismantled. What you are becoming cannot be reversed. Your reward is not only what awaits you next, it is who you have become along the way. Steadfast. Section number 4, the breaking that built you. Let's speak honestly. There were moments when it felt like you were reaching your limit, times when you wondered how much more your mind, body, and spirit could endure. The pressure felt relentless, as though it might finally crush you beneath its weight. Exhaustion followed you everywhere. Not only physical weariness, but a deep mental fatigue that made even simple days feel heavy. Each morning felt like another confrontation, another uphill climb, another storm demanding your strength. Your body was depleted, your spirit felt emptied, and your heart carried unanswered questions that refused to settle. There were days when it seemed as if the world itself was working against you, as though choosing honesty, kindness, and righteousness had placed a target on your back. It felt unfair, like you were suffering for doing what was right while others advanced without resistance. You struggled to understand why the pain lingered, why the pressure refused to lift, why the storm continued even though you had remained faithful. Confusion set in, questions multiplied, doubt quietly crept into your thoughts. Why me? Why does it hurt this much? You watched others move forward with ease while you carried a weight they never seemed to touch. The loneliness of that realization was heavy, emotionally drained, physically worn. You questioned how long you could continue, but beneath what you could see, something far greater was taking place. You were not collapsing, you were being opened. God was not tearing you down. He was uncovering what had been hidden inside you all along. This was not punishment, this was preparation. You were being stretched beyond familiar limits, drawn into a version of yourself you could not yet recognize. And although the process was painful, it was essential. A diamond does not emerge without pressure, gold does not gleam without refinement by fire, and a chosen one does not rise without testing. The pressure you felt was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to shape you, to sculpt you into the person you were always destined to become. The fire was burning away what no longer belonged, fear that restricted you, doubt that weakened you, insecurities that clouded your identity. Your character was being refined, your endurance strengthened, your faith anchored deeper than before. Every tear mattered, every trial carried purpose. With each painful moment, you were being forged into something stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever imagined. The breaking was never the conclusion. It was the doorway. You weren't simply surviving the pain, you were growing through it. Every challenge, every delay, every heartbreak was part of the sacred process leading you to this moment. Though it hurt, it was necessary. The heights prepared for you could not be reached without passing through the valley. This is the truth many never learn. Growth is not born in comfort. Strength is not formed in ease. They are forged in struggle, in standing firm within the storm when escape seems easier, in remaining upright when everything feels like it is tearing you apart. And now because of it, you are different, stronger, wiser, more resilient, more rooted in purpose. The layers that never belonged to you have fallen away. What remains is authentic and unshakable. You have emerged from the fire carrying clarity and strength that cannot be undone. A chosen one does not rise without testing. You do not step into destiny without being open, refined, and proven by fire. But now the flames have passed. The diamond within you has been revealed. The gold in your soul shines brighter than ever. What you endured did not delay you, it prepared you. The most difficult portion of the exam is complete. The foundation is firmly set. And now, equipped with everything you've learned and everything you've become, you stand ready to step fully into your calling, ready to live the life you were created for. And this is only the beginning. Section number 5, hidden grades, heavenly promotion. Your journey did not come with applause. There were no crowds cheering when you chose forgiveness over resentment. No recognition when you carried your pain in silence and still showed up. No celebration for the days you pushed forward while your strength felt depleted. The world overlooked your unseen sacrifices. It missed your quiet resilience, your moments of vulnerability, and the strength it took to keep going when walking away would have been easier. There was no award handed to you for choosing integrity, no praise for doing the right thing when compromise promised relief. But absence of recognition never meant absence of notice. Heaven was watching. God was marking your exam, not by outward performance or visible success, but by the unseen decisions of your heart. He measured your perseverance. He recorded the moments you chose kindness when anger rose, the times you chose healing instead of bitterness, the steps you took forward when your body and spirit wanted to collapse. This test was never about applause. It was never about approval. It was about the condition of your heart, the depth of your faith, and your commitment to rise above pain without losing yourself. And though you never heard it, the most meaningful applause was already taking place in the unseen. God witnessed your struggle. He saw your courage. He honored your effort. He recognized every sacrifice you made in secret. And in that recognition, something shifted. That is when the real promotion began. Not a promotion announced publicly, not one attached to a title or a paycheck, but a divine elevation that no person could grant and no one could take away. Because the moment you passed, doors that once resisted you began to unlock. Opportunities that felt unreachable started drawing closer. What once seemed impossible slowly came into view. A deep peace began to settle within you, not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in the quiet certainty that you were aligned with your calling. The noise of comparison faded. The pressure of the world lost its grip. And in that stillness, you rediscovered your true purpose, the one that had been waiting patiently for you to step into it. That purpose is now rising. It is guiding your steps. It is speaking louder than fear ever did. God honors faithfulness that endures in silence. Every tear you shed was seen. Every whispered prayer was heard. Every step taken in faith was counted, especially when no one else noticed. He saw the heart behind your obedience, the sacrifices made without witnesses, the choices you made without encouragement or affirmation. And this is where true elevation is found. Not in human applause, but in the assurance that heaven stands behind you. Your faithfulness, your perseverance, your character. That is what lifts you. That is what makes you truly seen. So while the world remained silent, heaven rose to attention. And now the results are unfolding. Doors are opening, peace is flowing, purpose is awakening. You passed, and God never forgets faithfulness carried quietly. His timing is flawless. And now you will begin to see the fruit of everything you endured. You are being promoted, first from within, and soon in ways that will be unmistakable to all. Section number 6. The chosen walk alone before they lead crowds. You often question why you felt different from others, why people drifted out of your life without explanation, why no matter how much effort you made, you never fully belonged. You watched others advance while you remained in uncertainty, feeling suspended between where you were and where you sensed you were meant to be. The loneliness was heavy, like walking a road few could recognize, let alone walk with you. And yet, deep within, you always knew your journey was not ordinary. That feeling was not confusion, it was calling. Those who are chosen are separated before they are elevated. The path of the chosen is not smooth because it is purposeful. Separation is not rejection, it is preparation. There is always a season where chosen ones are pulled away from familiar circles. A time when you feel isolated, misunderstood, or left behind. It may feel like abandonment, but in truth it is divine alignment. That solitude was necessary. Away from noise and distraction, you began to discover who you truly are. Without external voices shaping your identity, your vision started to sharpen. Isolation was never meant to harm you, it was meant to grow you. To lead others, you first had to learn how to stand alone. You were required to confront your fears and doubts without leaning on validation. You had to develop strength that did not depend on applause. You learned to listen inward, to hear your soul clearly above the noise of the world. This was not a season of loneliness. It was a season of refinement. You walked alone so your voice could be formed by truth rather than opinion. You learned to listen to your heart before carrying the weight of others. You discovered purpose in silence and strength in stillness. And in that quiet, something powerful became clear. You were never truly alone. You were being prepared. In solitude, you gathered wisdom. You gained clarity. You developed the courage required to lead. Those who will follow you one day will be drawn to your authenticity. Not performance, but presence. Not noise, but faith. You could not lead from emptiness. You had to be filled with your own vision before guiding others. So your identity would not be shaped by validation, but anchored in calling. And now you no longer seek permission to be who you are. You stand grounded in your identity, defined by the vision God placed within you. You have become whole without needing approval. Your vision is now your compass, guiding you even when others do not understand. It will take you forward, and others will follow. You are not behind. Even if it felt like endless waiting, you were never delayed. You were being refined. Every moment of isolation served a purpose, building strength, cultivating wisdom, and deepening your connection with God and yourself. You were placed in the background so your foundation could be solid. And the moment is approaching when you will step fully into the light. What once looked like loss will reveal itself as preparation. What felt like delay will be recognized as design. You are being prepared to lead in ways that will leave lasting impact. You walked alone, but you will not walk alone forever. The crowd will follow, not because you chased attention, but because purpose attracts alignment. You are ready. Now it is your time to lead. Section number 7, now it's your turn to teach. You made it through what would have broken many. You endured pressure that would have silenced weaker spirits. You faced storms meant to erase your voice, wounds meant to harden your heart, and nights that pushed your faith to its absolute edge. Yet you did not collapse. You did not compromise. You did not abandon who you were. You refused to let pain rewrite your identity. And because of that, you are no longer merely someone who survived. You have become someone who can lead. What you carry now is more than scars. It is wisdom. More than memories, it is revelation. Your journey was never meant to end with you. What you endured was always larger than your own story. Every tear had purpose. Every whispered prayer mattered. Every step forward you took when everything within you wanted to stop was recorded. God never wastes suffering. The road you walk through darkness has become a blueprint for someone else still trying to find their way. The voice you discovered in silence has become a guiding light for those who have not yet found theirs. The understanding born from your wounds carries the power to heal others. You were shaped this way so you could help others navigate their own tests. You know what it feels like to question your worth. You understand the ache of being unseen, overlooked, forgotten. That is why, when someone else enters their darkest season, you will know how to reach them. Not because you memorize the answers, but because you live them. You recognize hidden battles. You notice exhausted smiles and quiet pain. You can sense weary souls because you once carried that weight yourself, and now you are equipped to reach back and pull others forward. Speak life. You don't need a stage, a title, or an audience. Your life itself is the message. Encourage those who are discouraged. Remind the weary of who they are. Tell them they are not lost, not forgotten, not beyond redemption. Speak truth with compassion. Become the voice you once needed. Share your story, even the parts that still ache, especially those parts, because honesty heals. People are not searching for perfection. They are searching for what is real. When you speak from lived truth, defenses fall. When you reveal what you overcame, you give others permission to rise. Your scars are evidence that healing is possible. As you climb, lift others with you. True greatness is not measured by how high you rise, but by how many you help rise alongside you. As God elevates you, remain humble, remain generous. Never forget the valley when you reach the mountain. Just as you were carried through, now become the hands that carry someone else. You lose nothing by helping others succeed. You multiply your impact. You are no longer only being examined, you are being entrusted. God assigns the hardest exams to the strongest vessels, not to destroy them, but to develop them. And when they pass, He does not merely reward them, He commissions them. You have proven yourself faithful. You have demonstrated endurance. You have shown character under pressure. Now heaven recognizes you as a vessel, a voice, a leader, refined, ready, and released. God gives the hardest exams to the strongest students. And now that you have passed, your assignment begins.